Hello, everybody. Welcome to the WrestleWatch podcast, the only podcast that focuses on free agency in the world of professional wrestling. I am Doug.
And I'm Ryan over here. How you doing, Doug?
It's pretty good. It's June, but I'm very, very excited for the summer, just because I think we have a lot of ideas and things we want to do here with WrestleWatch, but also
Hmm.
just because I prefer the summer. I think I don't mind the heat. I prefer just being outside when it's hot outside and just doing nothing. I also don't work really in the summers, so that's also a big plus. And yeah, I'm also working on a HELOC, so that's fun. I mean, not
Okay.
really. It's not really fun, but
Well then, why'd you tell me it was fun?
I'm a liar. That's why.
Ah,
Are you?
you're just like Cody Rhodes.
Yeah. What's going on
Um,
with you?
yeah, no, I'm not a summer person. I hate sweating, and so that's summer, and that's all I got to say about that.
I feel like the
Uh,
East Coast is a lot more humid than the West Coast.
oh
And
yeah, it is terrible summer around here. Um, so I would love to skip summer from now on. That's my personal
yeah,
take.
I
Maybe
feel
we'll
like
get there.
yeah, who knows? I feel like it's probably going the other way, but I feel I feel like out by me, like in the Midwest, I feel like I get a little mix of each. Like sometimes it'll be just a nice dry heat, and sometimes it's
Mhm.
just going to be awful and humid.
Yeah,
So I get a mix.
yeah. Well, I think that this week we have a little bit of a mix because we have somebody that we want to talk about that has been really going to the forefront of the news with it's essentially WrestleWatch is going mainstream for some people. Um, so this week or today, I suppose it's today, the contract of Becky Lynch has expired. Um, she's been with WWE since what, 2013, is it?
Yep, 2013, I believe. So she is officially a free agent as of today. And to me, this is going to be the first one we've had in a while where I could say, okay, this is going to be a legit bidding war because I do think whether or not she actually has any intention of leaving, I do think she's going to use that leverage. Um, and I don't know. I mean, okay, and we'll talk about this when we get to it, but when we talk about, where we lean, whether it's one way or the other and what she's going to do, regardless of what I think or what you think or what anyone thinks about how likely it is that she leaves, she's going to use that leverage and she's going to use it well. Otherwise, she wouldn't be doing this in the first place.
Yeah, that's my take on the situation as a whole right now is I've seen so many people that are just like, oh, well, the reports say that she's gonna just be taking a 3 month break. So we're just going to blindly believe that when you look at the evidence of if that was the case, why didn't she just resign already and then take a 3 month break?
You know who they said that for? Who else they said that for?
I believe when Adam Copeland,
And you know who else? John Moxley.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's like I don't listen. I don't buy this. I subscribe to the theory that nobody knows what Becky Lynch is going to do except Becky Lynch, and everyone else is just kind of making assumptions. I think that that includes the people within WWE who believe that she's not going to go anywhere.
Hmm.
Because that's what all the reports have been lately is just people from,
Citing, yeah.
yes, like sources within WWE believe that she is not going to be leaving. So I think the fact that we're seeing that so much tells me that she's not talking that much. And I don't think we're going to see her talk at the moment. I think there is and we'll get into this in a minute, but we'll just kind of recap. Becky Lynch has been, hinting at her free agency since she did that Ariel Helwani interview.
Hmm.
And in that interview, she essentially said, "Hey, I'm up in 2 months. I know my worth, I know my value," and clearly she did because she's waiting this out. And here's the thing: she's unhappy with the WWE deal offer right now. And the reason you know that is because they said that they were constantly on ongoing talks up until the 11th hour.
Hmm.
So this isn't a thing where she straight up said, I'm going to take a break and then I'll be back. This, negotiations were ongoing. So if a deal happened that she wanted, I think that she would have signed it because this everyone says, oh, she just wanted to take a break. I don't buy this idea that she can't like resign and take a break.
Yeah,
Like
no,
that can't be worked in.
I also don't buy that, and I feel like there is a bit of I think that some people have a certain viewpoint of what women are supposed to do and supposed to be doing and their priority structures. Because I've seen a lot of people being like, well, she has a child, so maybe she just wants to retire. And it's like, that's a very passe way of looking at it, in my opinion. Um,
Yes.
like is it possible that that's the truth? Yes, it is possible. But the way that people bring up the prospect of her, oh, she'll just retire. Oh, she wants a break. It's like it feels very coded at times to me. So that's another thing that I would like give some pause in trying to ascribe motives
Yeah.
behind where Becky might be doing
No,
things.
nobody said that about her less famous, less successful husband.
Yeah.
Nobody said, well, he has a kid now. Maybe he just wants to like go and stay home.
Well, this is something that I believe I talked about when we talked about Adam Copeland for a little bit with regards to Beth Phoenix. Possibly, we had some discussions recently about should Beth Phoenix maybe get on the tier list, and I recall that some people in the ether, not in our committee, were saying like, well, they have a child. And I was like, if you listen to anything that Adam Copeland's ever said about the family dynamic, he's like, I'm basically a stay-at-home dad. Like
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a rant to be had, but I think that we all are in agreement, so it doesn't necessarily need to be had.
Yeah, it's silly in that regard. So I guess the question at this point is, what is she going to do? So
Mhm.
I think we've discussed this a little bit. I think we are both leaning, and we'll kind of rehash this again when we go over the tier list, but I think we're both uh in the position that we're leaning towards her not going anywhere.
Yes, that is essentially how I think we both are feeling about it. I I'm very cautious right now with anybody that has contracts expiring with WWE because, as you mentioned, um, the report, all these reports about all these folks that are about to have their contracts run out. It's like Ricochet, for example, great example of this. There was a report that came out yesterday that was like Ricochet, oh, his contract's gonna come up soon, and we had already seen this report that was just like, oh, his contract coming up soon. But for some reason, it was like, hey, prod, 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 it's coming up soon, prod, prod, prod. And it also said that, of course, he will get major interest from all of the other major companies or something. It was something like ludicrous of a statement when you then look at the sourcing and it's literally just one source for the entire thing. And it's just a WWE source that's saying, here's the actual quote. Ricochet is expected to get heavy interest from virtually every company able to afford his services.
Yeah.
The only source on this entire report is WWE.
Yeah, and I think and I'll give Joe Lanza from the Voices of Wrestling credit for this one because he's the one who kind of brought up this theory on one of his Patreon episodes. And it was this idea that what is happening in a lot of these situations is when we see these WWE contracts coming due, WWE is now putting them on blast and letting the media know that their contract's coming up with the understanding and belief that these are going to be easy re-signings for them.
Mm-hmm.
And then what that does is this kind of shifts the narrative that we've seen over the last 6 months or so of where WWE is doing very poorly in free agency. Like when someone's a genuine free agent, they're not doing well. And AEW is outbidding. The Okada one's probably the most notorious one where Tony Khan it was reported that Tony Khan straight up said I will not be outbid for Okada. and that was it. And then obviously Will Ospreay. Reportedly, WWE was actually very, very annoyed with that one because they thought they could get Will Ospreay, and they didn't. And then obviously Mercedes Moné was the other big high profile one. So they were getting the floor swept by them, but for with free agency right now, and that was a big problem. So the theory being put forth is that a lot of these recent ones, these WWE contracts, and I've said I think WWE is doing a good job of playing defense right now and retaining these people.
Hmm.
Um, and these are all, and to be fair, these are not just like random people that WWE is putting out there. These are genuine contracts that I thought had a potential to jump. These are members of the Mag 7 that I put together. But
Hmm.
having said that, the fact that they're putting them out and then suddenly they're re-signing, that's there's an argument that these could be manufactured wins by WWE. So manufactured bidding wars, with these. So like for example, if Ricochet is staying, maybe they already have like a handshake agreement, and they're putting this out there that his contract's coming up. And then when he eventually resigns, it looks like a big win for WWE because they were able to retain a talent. And then it looks like, this talent that quote unquote, had bidders from every major company they could afford him, he stays with WWE and it looks like a big win. So that there's an argument that that could be what's happening with Becky Lynch right now, is that she has a handshake agreement and her free agency is, could be quote unquote not real in that regard.
So you're thinking that it could be a kayfabe free agency?
I mean, I'll say this: she's clearly a free agent. I believe she is genuinely a free agent at this time. But
Hmm.
perhaps this idea that they haven't come to an agreement, that could be maybe a little overblown. Maybe they do have an agreement. Maybe they have kind of an idea of what they want. I think we're gonna find out eventually because I think when she resigns, we're probably gonna hear if she actually did talk to AEW and how that went. I don't know if
Yeah.
we'll hear like the specifics. I doubt we'll hear the specifics, but I think we'll at least get some vibes. And I think we'll find out through the grapevine whether or not she actually was seriously interested and seriously considering it.
Yeah. My view is that the theory of the whole WWE is seeding certain stories about certain people that might become free agency agents. I think that that is likely true, just by looking through what they've been doing recently with these reports, and that they're the only source for almost all of these things. Um,
Yeah.
Something that I would point out is that it does seem like it could backfire at the same time with some of these people. Back last year, we can recall that Julia seemed to be upset that WWE kept leaking things about her negotiations, um, because she didn't want it to look like she was being, improper, or she wasn't being, like sneaky with trying to go over there. Because, I mean, essentially, she wasn't trying to be sneaky as far as she was aware, in
Mhm.
going there. She was being assisted in the matter. Um,
And obviously,
but go ahead.
with Marigold in that, it looked like Frosty was poaching talent and got him fired, so that could be tied to that as well.
Yeah. I would also say that the types of talent that we're seeing these kinds of reports about, we saw it with Natalia, I suppose, was one of the first ones of this wave. We've seen it with Ricochet, Chad Gable, a few other people. They're not Becky Lynch level talent.
No.
So, but still, if you have WWE fans are, we've seen it in the comments for our podcast before, in our shorts and stuff like that on the YouTubes. People in that are WWE fans, they are crazy happy about Gorillas of Destiny. And
Yes.
some of these folks, they think that is like one of the biggest signings that WWE could do, and like look at how well WWE is booking them, and like looking at it possibly a little bit tribally then, and saying like, oh wow, they're being booked better than those bozos that AEW signed recently. All those money, millions wasted. If you hype up the people that are slightly lower on the card that have their contracts running out, and you have that are your fans are excited about you signing that are similar tier, like Tamatonga Tangaloa. They're kind of similar tier in where they're placed on the roster as Chad Gable or Ricochet right now, honestly. Even though I think Chad Gable has a crazy ceiling. I think we'll get to that later on in the show a little bit more. If you do that, then people will be really pumped when you re-sign them. If you give the appearance that the person is a major talent, and then you give the appearance that there is going to be this crazy free agency where virtually every company in the world is all going to be giving major offers to Ricochet, and then you re-sign him, then everybody's going to say, "Wow, what a steal! Oh wow, Tony Khan must be crying himself to sleep on this one," all these kinds of things. Whereas then on the sly, you just let Becky premiere at the wrong stadium in August.
Yeah,
I
and
think
here
that I think that that might be part of the strategy as well.
I think it could be, but I will say this. I think that we're looking at a situation where with Becky Lynch, we need to look to how the media responded to Mercedes Moné because we really had a good sense of what was going on throughout the process in the sense that we heard, oh, she's no longer talking to WWE. Now she's back at AEW. Oh,
Mhm.
AEW, and then she was at All In, and oh, AEW and Mercedes Moné are no longer talking. She's now expected to return to WWE. So it just went back and forth. And with
Yeah.
that, we had a real time view of what was going on. So I think if we get something similar to that with with Becky Lynch, where we actually hear about negotiations, whether they are or aren't happening, I think that's going to be a good indicator um, in terms of how real this free agency is. Uh,
Mhm.
but having said that, I
Oh,
I do think there is a way that I would look at this in terms of
okay.
like, is she going anywhere? And I would say there are three scenarios for me. One, she's not going to resign anywhere. Maybe she's just going to become a part timer. Maybe she's going to, you know, do more of a Trish Stratus thing, which is
Mhm.
not impossible. But in that case, that would not be a jump. The second option is she's just going to resign eventually. That's the
Yeah.
second option. And then finally, the last option is that she explores free agency and she actually, puts AEW and WWE up against each other and goes with the highest bidder. That would be obviously the most interesting one. I would say all three of those options are about equal.
Mhm.
Um, so that's a 33% chance.
Yeah.
Having said that, I do think there is a chance that WWE may outbid AEW for her. So
Yeah.
that third option isn't necessarily a jump. It just means that may be where it goes. I do think I'll be honest, I think it's more likely than not that she is genuinely going to go to AEW and ask, not go to AEW, but going to go to Tony Khan and get a
Call him up.
number. I think she's going to get a number.
I think that Tony Khan would be silly not to try to sign Becky Lynch.
Yeah.
And I think he would be silly not to try to drive up her price as much as he can.
And
Um,
well, I don't know about that. Let me put a pin in that for a second. But I do think Becky Lynch would be crazy not to go to Tony Khan and try to get a number.
well, I would suppose, like, again, if we're if we're using this as an actual like regulated labor marketplace for like a pro sports marketplace and all those kinds of things, of there's actually a thing called a contract tampering in this made up world, which I mean, there's not for professional wrestling. You can talk to somebody if they're still in the contract. Um, Maybe she was like legitimately just wanting to go to free agency so she can get a legit offer from Tony Khan if he wasn't willing to do that before her contract actually expired.
But you brought up a point a question I want to bring up. So
Okay.
you said that Tony Khan, it's in his best interest to, even if she doesn't go, to run up the money on her.
Yeah.
Now, maybe you're right. Like maybe that does benefit him if he kind of further breaks the labor structure and forces WWE to pay a lot more for Becky Lynch. Let's say that Becky Lynch becomes the highest paid woman in wrestling. let's say Becky Lynch is making more than Mercedes Moné, and WWE is the one foot in the bill. So what that effectively does is once again reset the market
Yeah.
for especially for the women's division. And long term, that's obviously not going to be something that WWE management's going to be happy with.
Well,
But
no.
is that something now? And we all assume that like obviously Tony Khan, very wealthy, is going to be getting a giant contract from WBD very shortly, I would imagine. And
Maybe
well, he's going to get a money, he's going to get a contract from someone.
someone.
Yeah, and it's going to be sizable. So he obviously is going to have a lot more wiggle room. He has not even begun to really, put a lot of money into WWE. And as far as I know, I don't think he's necessarily put anything more in there besides the initial seed money to start this thing.
That is the way that it's been phrased. Yes, he has not even begun to peak,
Yeah,
as some would say.
yeah. So at this point, um, we don't know if he is someone who would want to do that because that would also have a long-term impact on him. If he's offering more money than he paid to Mercedes Monet
Hmm.
and she still goes elsewhere, that's going to get out that of what Tony Khan was offered. And that's going to have a ripple effect the next time he has, a big star that's contract is up, Britt Baker,
Uh,
for example, or someone like that.
I mean, let's be honest here. It's gonna be there's not really anybody else on the women's roster or on AEW that's at that level of like going to be able to command that kind of money.
Yeah.
Like even if I love all of these wrestlers, I don't think that they're going to be able to have that much leverage as much as Mercedes or Becky do.
And that's true. But I'm also thinking long term. We don't know what it's like. Okay. We don't know what's going to look like in like 2 years, 3 years. Who knows
Okay.
who's over and who knows who's, able to command what.
Hmm.
I'm not necessarily seeing that trajectory now, but this is, if he does like make a big money offer and he does reset the market for talent, that could impact him as well. So if Becky Lynch is coming over and if he has a pretty good feeling that she does not care, she does not want
Hmm.
to come to AEW, she's just using him for leverage. I don't know that he necessarily wants to run it up. He might want to just like he might just want to pass and say, go on back to WWE. I don't know. Maybe it's maybe it's beneficial, but it may be good for him to say, I'm not paying you more than I'm paying Mercedes.
I mean, sure, but then she's still getting more than anybody else except for one person because
Right.
it's already been established, I think, many times that Mercedes is making the most of anybody and far more than Charlotte got, which was the previous top offer for
I get
someone.
I guess my point is just that I think that we're in a situation where AEW does not need another talent that doesn't really want to be there. And I think that
I don't think that we can say that she doesn't want to be there.
I don't think we can either. But I
I
think that's a
mean,
question that they need to add. They need to find out
I
before they
mean, yeah,
really
but
start
like
making genuine offers.
I would say like look at, Ryan Danielson during this. It was the exact same time 3 years ago now,
Hmm.
2 years, 3 years ago now, that he was in the WrestleMania main event and everything, and then he did a little light program with Roman Reigns, and then everybody that was, you know, loving WWE were like, oh, he's just taking a break. It's free agent. He would never leave WWE. And then he showed up in AEW 3 months later, you know? Like I think that we can't necessarily say that we can't say whether or not Becky wants to be one place or another. Like want is a thing that I don't think that we can say. I think that there are people that have gone to AEW that did not seem to want to be there. uh, but a lot of those people were people that got released from WWE and went there. I cannot think of anybody off the top of my head who had their contract expire in WWE, went to AEW, and then got angry.
Well, I give you a good example. I mean, obviously, it came out later that CM Punk did not necessarily see AEW as he didn't respect what AEW had accomplished. He did not understand the mission statement. He felt that it was beneath him. That all came out later.
But
And I
that's like the hell freezes over person, and that's the person that was gone for 7 years. That's not the kind of person like Becky would be after like 2 months.
Right, but I'm just saying that we need to make sure that if I'm Tony Khan, I would say I need to make sure that this is someone who isn't going to just begrudgingly come here because I'm making the best offer and she's just chasing the best money. I think that that is something I don't, once again, I don't think that she's doing that. I don't think she's the type of person that has that mindset at all. I really don't. But I do think it's still something that they need to keep in mind with a lot of these talent that are going to be coming over to, potentially coming over. If they see AEW in a way that, you know, Miro or Malachi Black see it, then they need to just keep that in mind. That's all I'm really saying. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
that we're necessarily going to see a situation where that's going to happen. I think they have a pretty good idea of who, and there's something. She came from the indies. It's like she worked Shimmer shows. She worked tons of different indies, and because of that, I think that she has a different mindset than a lot of people. So we'll see what happens with her.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, is there anything else we wanted to talk about with Becky before we jump into just going through the tier list?
I think we're good.
Okay, cool. Well, we will be right back with the WrestleWatch podcast. Okay, welcome back to the WrestleWatch podcast, the only podcast where we cover free agency in the world of professional wrestling. I'm Ryan, and that's Doug over there. Did you get your coffee all filled back up?
I did. I'm ready. I'm ready.
Awesome.
I'm ready to play a game. You
Okay,
know,
what's
you
this
know,
game? Oh
the
God.
game is a game that we seem to play every week, and that is, will Doug remember what he actually voted for?
Okay, okay. Do you want me to? Are we going to play the game where you say what you think you voted, and then I will reveal how you voted? I
Yeah,
think that would be the fun way of doing it.
let's do that. Let's see how I remember.
Okay, let me find your. This is a very secret ballot that
Yes.
only I have access to. I'm Karnak the Magnificent here, and I will put up. We'll find this out for you. Okay, I have all the answers. You have none of the answers. This will be
Okay.
fun.
Yes.
Will it be fun? We'll find out. So how about we just go through the tier list as we always do, just from top to bottom. There have been some changes, some additions to the tier list, and people have had a fond farewell this week. But it's always good, I think, just to go from top to bottom, just in case there's any little nuggets of things about people that have not actually moved up or down yet.
Sounds good.
So so we're going to start up in the S tier, which are the people that we think are imminently going to be debuting in a new promotion. We have currently Camille, Jacob Fatu, Motor City Machine Guns, and Eric Rowan. Not a lot's changed there, I don't think, right?
No, that looks like the same.
Yeah. A tier is who we think are likely jumps. We have nobody there right now because we are not sure about a lot of people right now.
Poor A tier.
Yeah, it's okay. We it looks like we have a lot of people down in DNF tier. Maybe some of them will be going up soon enough. Maybe Becky Lynch. Who knows? B tier is the grizzled young veterans Katsuhiko Nakajima and Ricky Starks. I don't think that there were any updates on any of them this week either.
No, that seems about the same.
C tier, which is our 50-50, could go either way tier. Matt Hardy, Sheamus, Cameron Grimes, Hikuleo, Speedball Mike Bailey, and Mustafa Ali.
That nothing changed there.
Butamus. D tier. They're probably staying. Got Malachi Black, Dustin Rhodes, Jeff Hardy, Jinder Mahal, Tekla, Kevin Owens, Natalia, Danhausen, Shelton Benjamin, Alex Windsor, the Von Erichs, and newly arriving in D tier, it's who we just had the entire last segment about. It's Becky Lynch.
Yeah. So I don't think we need to go over Becky Lynch again. She's a D tier. I imagine that I probably voted for D tier on her.
Oh, you did.
Yeah,
Good job, Doug.
very good. And then also I think that we'll talk about it more next week, but I imagine we're probably going to do a Jeff Hardy vote. I think he's worth probably voting on again.
Yeah, I believe that there was a report saying that sometime this summer his contract is going to be running out with AEW. I'm not positive on where he goes next, other than like a TNA, because I mean he left WWE because of his issues. So I don't understand why they would want him back with
I
open arms.
I think he's going to go to WWE.
Well, we're gonna talk about that next week.
Yes, we'll say
Uh,
that's a teaser for next week.
Becky Lynch, I actually voted C tier because even though I think that we should be a little bit more apprehensive about people that were getting these reports that say just WWE sources, I think that's just the fact that she's gone for it. She's going for it as a free agent is a little bit spicier than any of the past people that we like. We had Seth and B tier at one point, like I think that now that Becky is an actual free agent, I think that we could have her a little bit higher. But I do agree, I think, in general, with your assessment that it's around a third chance right now, in my opinion, of her ending up in AEW. And again, as I said, she will appear in a stadium this August. She will appear in one. Just a question of where.
Well, and here's the thing. I think that a lot of people, when they saw these most recent defensive moves by WWE, I think that's maybe cooled off a lot of people on throwing people up to B tier and whatnot. I think that's kind of slowed that down a bit. So I think that's why people are being a little more cautious, just because they're seeing the landscape kind of shift a little bit. Whereas
Yeah.
before, we saw, AEW like winning every free agency there was. So we'll see if this is a change, because this is honestly the first genuine free agency since, I don't know what, Monet.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I would say so for somebody level, obviously.
yeah, so we'll see.
Um, So down in F tier, we have Sareee, Utami Hayashishita, Hook, El Phantasmo, Nikki Bella, Gigi Dolan, Buddy Matthews, Kaito Kiyomiya, Lio Rush, Matt Cardona, Michael Oku, and then two new people. But before we get to the new people, was there anything you wanted to say about the other people that are currently in F tier?
No, not at the moment. I do think some of these people are getting to the point where I'm starting to question having them on here,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe that's time to, take them off for now. But, you know, well, that's a discussion for another day. Maybe we'll do some votes on this week on some of these people. But I don't have any major questions or points. The one thing I will say, obviously, Lio Rush showed up um at the Forbidden Door Gauntlet on Dynamite this week. Um,
Yes.
I took that as him, being there as a New Japan, a quasi representative of New Japan in the tournament, or in the gauntlet. Sorry. Um, I don't think he's gonna sign with AEW. I don't want to say for sure, but I just think I kind of had to bring that up just because obviously he just showed up on Dynamite, and a lot of people felt that maybe he wasn't on good terms with the company, obviously because he had that very public uh, social media issue with Tony Khan after he made his comments about Big Swole. So I mean, I never got the impression that they were, a bridge was burnt, which
Mm-hmm.
is saying a lot because, let's be honest, Lio Rush, he burns bridges left and right, and he always has. That's been a thing of his. But I never felt that that was the case with him in AEW. In fact, I don't think there's very, very few bridges I think have been burnt. Like I don't think Jonathan Gresham, I don't think a bridge is burnt. I could see him coming back one day.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the one bridge I think is probably burnt is CM Punk. I don't see him coming back, but that might be the only one.
Yeah, I would say also with Leo Rush that for our purposes, it's a little bit hard to say what he was doing before he became on the tier list because the tier list is supposed to be about you signing somewhere new from where you are currently, right?
Hmm.
So if somebody was like, for example, Matt Hardy, we've kind of accepted that if Matt Hardy were to go to AEW again right now, that he would be considered not a jump, right?
Well, I mean, the way we define the jump, it's someone who's going between or to one of the uh one of the promotions that we consider locations. So it would technically can be considered a jump. It wouldn't be a jump from like one company to another, but for the purposes of the tier list, I believe we would consider it a jump.
Uh,
It just wouldn't be a jump between two companies at this point because he is a free agent.
well, if you go up the tier list, it means that you're going somewhere new. If you go down the tier list, it means you're staying where you are.
Correct. So
So
if he went to WWE, that'd be a jump. You don't think that'd be a jump?
Matt Hardy to WWE is going up the tier list, yes.
Yes.
And Matt Hardy going to TNA and signing with them formally is going up the tier list.
So if he signed with TNA, you would say that's not a jump, or would you say that is a
No,
jump?
I'm saying that is a jump because he was with AEW.
Yes. So I would say, yeah, if he goes
If he goes
anywhere,
back to AEW, then it's going down the tier list.
yeah, I would say that's
Yeah,
not a jump.
yeah. So that's the thing with Lio Rush. Then is trying to like game out because like I think that it's intriguing to watch him right now because he's obviously back, hashtag back. Um, but yeah, it's kind of hard to quantify, and he came up as a possible person
Yeah.
to look at this week.
I see what
Uh,
you're saying. Like, did he like go to the Indies and then come back? And it's like, because I do think you could make an argument that he probably had something. I don't know if you could say he had a deal with New Japan, but he definitely had a New Japan run
yeah,
between his AEW uh,
and
departure
that
and coming back. So I
yeah,
think, yeah,
we'll probably chat about it next week.
yeah, those are like one of those weird semantic things. It ultimately probably doesn't matter that much, but it's still an interesting thing to talk about.
Yeah, and then of course Sareee. I just love Sareee. I just wanted to say that again. She did the was she on Sukeban again or Sukeban had a show
Yes,
this weekend.
with Saweetie
Yes, and Renee Paquette on commentary.
and Nick Khan in the crowd apparently.
Yeah, because of course, Renee Paquette is a deep state sleeper agent for the Fed. So she's just keeping an eye on his people. It makes sense to
I,
me, at least.
I subscribe to the theory that Sukeban secretly owns both AEW and WWE.
Oh, that's a hot one.
Yes.
That might be true. We can't, nobody can prove that it's not true.
Yep.
Um, also that they don't have their cage match doesn't have the card on there, so I can't see who was even on the show. That promotion, I have no idea what it is.
I'll be honest, it's a promotion after my heart because it has all it has all the elements that I want in a wrestling promotion that I'm currently not really getting right now. Which is, a faction-based promotion that is, essentially booked the way like New Japan or Stardom is, but based in the United States.
Yeah.
And that's something that I want really badly. And they have all the elements there. They have their different factions and stuff, but it's just like I don't know what they're doing with it because they're only running like feels like quarterly shows.
Yeah.
So maybe it's a slow ramp up, similar to how AEW was before they started Dynamite, or similar to the way Marigold is right now, and it'll eventually like hit the ground running. Maybe they're trying to get a TV deal, which or some type of media deal, which would not surprise me.
Yeah.
In fact, I feel like that's probably what Sukeban is doing. I think they're just trying to mess around until they get someone offering them a deal. So we'll see.
So the two people that have been added to the tier list this week. Let's start first with the first one alphabetically. Chad Gable was added to the tier list this week. There are increasing reports, and again, little asterisks on it because the sourcing is all WWE sources saying that his contract is imminently going to be expiring.
Yeah, I think I went D tier on him, or I'm an F tier. I went F tier on him.
Let me see. We're gonna reveal. You voted F tier.
Yeah, Yeah, this was a clear F tier from me personally. And the reason I say that is because I think that he is someone who's very talented and he has a high ceiling, but I do think that he is someone who, if he was going to, I feel like if he was going to leave, he would have left already because he had other opportunities and other chances to make a jump. And at times where he was presented much, much worse in this company than he is now. And I think that he's found a niche, he's found a spot for himself in the company. He's doing well in that position,
Hmm.
and he's probably making decent money. So I don't know that he's someone who necessarily wants to leave. And so that's why I don't see him going to AEW, which is the only place I could see him go because it's the only place I think would pay him, comparable. I just feel like if he was someone who really cared about his presentation, he would have left a long time ago.
I think that I'm just not sure if he's actually leaving, just because of the sources that we're getting this from. Like, technically, yeah, I suppose we'll believe that his contract is expiring next week. Uh, but like, I'm just very apprehensive about starting a watch on someone that's leaving WWE that's around this tier of like not a Becky Lynch level kind of person. Um, but I do agree that if he's looking at money, his only option is going to be AEW for comparable money. Um, and then if he's looking for style, of course, I mean, I think that he could fit in fine pretty much anywhere. As the kids say, he hoops.
Yeah, but here's the thing with him. I just You're right. I just would a okay, let me ask this. Would AEW be interested enough to even make him an offer like that?
Um, I think that AEW's roster is getting back to critical mass a little bit, to be completely honest. But I think that he is the type of performer that could shine in AEW because he's shown that he can get over a silly gimmick and be a like beautifully great technical wrestler at the same time.
Yeah.
So I think that's something that is going to differentiate him from a lot of folks that went to AEW and like their gimmick was just I wrestle good. You like me because I wrestle good. I'm going to be the best wrestler who's ever wrestled good. And it's like, okay, cool. Like we have like 10 of those back here in the closet. What are you going to actually do that's different this time? And that's something that like for example, Roderick Strong, he struggled with that a lot when he came in originally. And I mean, it's unfortunate that he broke, has neck injury and all that stuff. But like, it helped him a lot in getting over with the crowd. And now he's not leaving TV, it seems, for the foreseeable future. And he's still like has a decent spot on the roster. So I think that that's something that like has to be thought about when thinking about could this person one fit in AEW or two would AEW be interested in them? And I think Chad has that intangible thing more than just being I'm a good wrestler that would make him somebody that you might consider put in a bid on.
Yeah, I think that's a fair take on this. But we'll see. We'll
We
see.
shall see. Yes. The other person that was added down in the F tier this week is somebody that is leaving AEW. It is Jake Hager. We do not have any reports regarding his hat, though, for that matter. But Jake Hager himself leaving AEW.
I think I voted. Man, I don't remember what I voted for this one. Give me a second. I think
Yeah,
I probably voted to. I might have gone F, but he's one where I was considering just saying don't put him on it just because I didn't know where he was going to go. But I think ultimately I said F.
you did ultimately say F, and I am one of the people then that is the devil on your shoulder because I said do not include.
Yeah, I mean this. That's obviously I have no issue with that. I honestly can go either way, and I went back and forth on this. Initially, my thought was like, well, I just don't see him. I mean, I'm not surprised that he's leaving because I think they've done everything they can do with him. And let's be
Hmm.
fair, they didn't do a lot with him, but what they did with him, I felt was very effective in the sense that they did it in a very less is more way,
Yes.
very, very effective. And I would argue that his run in AEW was a successful one.
I mean, I don't think that he was going to get that sort of run anywhere else.
Yeah. No, it worked. It was a good run for what it was. I thought he had some memorable moments. I thought and I think that they kept his moments and matches very, very sparse. And I
Hmm.
think that was good. That was a smart thing to do. And it benefited him. And I
Yeah.
think at this point, I don't know that he might be just done. I mean, he's got other stuff that he does. He doesn't need this money. He's probably going to. I don't know if he's still doing the MMA thing,
Hmm.
but he's a guy who just I could see him just being done. He could probably rest on his laurels if he really wants. He could go do the wrestling WrestleCon loop, do
Yeah,
a
he
bunch
can
of
go.
signatures and stuff. Yeah,
Yeah, he can go be in TNA and hang out with Bully Ray at
yeah.
the cons.
How old is he? Let me look up his age real quick.
Wait. Yeah, okay. You look it up. I will not look it up. I will guess how old he is.
Okay, how old do you think he is?
42.
You guessed it on the nose.
What the hell?
Yeah, which is impressive. Which once again, that's not that old in wrestling terms, but it's also like, you know, this is a guy who's been around a long time and he's also done MMA and I
Well,
don't know.
so something that I would point out is a lot of people are like, well, he's a former world champion. Why wouldn't people be interested in him? And I'm like, well, he's 42. And his world champion run when he was Jack Swagger. How long ago was that by now?
And
Like
it was a
10 years ago?
it was a world championship run when his title was like the lesser title.
That's something that I always have to point out to people is that like when it gets brought up that WWE is thinking about maybe introducing a mid-card women's belt on the main roster, and I'm like, they already have one. It's the other world championship.
Yeah, and it's just like the belt that Damian Priest has right now. It's you
It's the
know,
mid-card
yeah,
belt.
that's not a
It's
world
it's at the
title.
it's at the level of the IC. The World Heavyweight Championship is the same level as the IC, but it just sketch. Although I will point out also because people were complaining about, people complained about the length of the Double or Nothing pay-per-view, which we didn't even mention that happened this weekend. Um, but people were also, I saw some, the classic complaints about there's too many belts in AEW, can't keep up. I don't know the difference between an intercontinental and a continental title, even though it's like there's more words that, there's more letters, so
Yeah,
it's different. But
which by the way, MJF resigned everyone.
oh yeah, we forgot to mention that. Yeah, MJF resigned, which we already knew for like 2 years, and like the marks got worked, but not us.
Nope.
Uh,
So I don't think we need to talk about that. It's fine. He's back.
no, but yeah, no. I would just point out that the WWE main roster has the exact same number of belts that AEW has, so they have the same number of TV hours also. So I don't know. I feel like maybe if you're making that complaint about AEW, maybe you got to look into yourself.
Yeah.
Anyway, point is Jake Hager F tier. That's the news. Um, we have one more person to go over of a change this week, and that is Ethan Page. This one surprised all of us.
You know, it did, and I'm surprised that he got a WWE deal so quickly, just because I didn't necessarily think that was going to happen. But hey, you know, good for him. I think he's a talented guy. I don't think he's, you know, I think he's a step above Brian Pillman Jr.
Hmm.
Um, but it does. I think that it is funny how excited people get over these people that did like they were kind of boring and didn't really do anything for the last couple of years, whether it be Tamatanga or Brian Pillman Jr. and now we're Sean Spears and now we have Ethan Page and we're posting memes of Shawn Michaels in a chef hat and it's like All right, sure.
Oh yeah, that was
I'm
Shawn Michaels doing that too, even right?
yeah, you're right. So
Or
it's
his
like, okay,
account.
sure, man. All right.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of what I was pointing out earlier, where like all these reports are about people that are not Becky Lynch tier, whose contracts are about to expire. The reports are all WWE sourced and saying, "Wow, every other company is going to be loving this guy." Oh, it's I don't know.
Look, I could be wrong, but we'll see. I mean, I think he's gonna be I look forward to seeing him on main event in 6 months, probably, if
Oh,
he even makes it to the main
oh,
roster. I don't mean to be mean, but
yeah. Like, so this was my reaction to it. Like, first off, I like Ethan Page. I think he's a fun dude. I think that he's a very good and solid wrestler. I think that he is going to be taking a lot of pins in NXT to build up whoever their next crop prospects are.
yeah. I mean, let's be honest. Carmelo Hayes is probably going to be on main event in the next 6 months. So it's
Yeah.
like, let's not even like talk about
Well,
Ethan Page.
well, if he can figure out who LA Knight is, then he won't be.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, but so I say this. I said this to some folks this past week. Like, yeah, Ethan Page is like, he's his part in NXT, just like Sean Spears, is to take pins. Like he's going to build up somebody and be the rival, the heel rival to somebody that they're going to try to get over. He's going to have credibility because they're like they almost said AEW on the NXT commentary. They were like, "Oh, Ethan Page, isn't he signed to AE?" And like get cut off. So like they're playing all these things up, right? Um,
Well,
then it was pointed out to me. What are you gonna say?
I'll say, let me ask this. What is the biggest like NXT signing, like free agent or some signing to go there that would actually be a big deal?
Uh,
Like obviously we got Julia.
Recently,
Yeah, we got Julia coming in, which I think would qualify because I think they're gonna genuinely give her a big push. But it's like,
I would
who
say
was the last one?
before Julia, it's Dragon Lee.
And that was like a year and a half
Last
ago.
year, 2 years ago. Yeah.
So I think that's it's like all these recent signings are just like, there's no one.
Well,
There's no big names.
that was kind of why he was in F tier, was because we weren't sure where he was gonna go. Some people were like, "Oh, maybe he's just gonna not wrestle in like a major promotion. Maybe he'll just like stay doing indie stuff, because like he could blaze that path that Matt Cardona did, because I think that he has all of the skills and all of the chutzpah to do that, to milk the indies.
And it could just be a situation where there's okay, we saw a report yesterday where the main roster minimum salary is now 350,000,
I would love that.
which is I think is up from 250. Like I think 250 was the minimum before.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of people, first of all, people are missing the fact that one, this is probably a direct response from AEW, who already it reportedly has a pretty high minimum as is. So this is probably a situation where they're trying to get their salaries on par with AEW.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it sounds like, you once you have that, so and so is all elite, it sounds like you make pretty decent money for
Yeah.
a lighter schedule. So I think this was a direct response to that. I don't know that NXT is necessarily doing that though, and that's probably why we're not seeing a whole lot of jumps from AEW to NXT from high profile talent, and that's why
Yeah.
the people you're seeing it's going to be people like you know Ethan Page or just people whose contracts were let up. So I'm not. I mean, who was I'm trying to think. Was there anyone who jumped to NXT that left AEW besides Dragon Lee? Because I know Dragon Lee absolutely took a pay cut.
Well, Brian Pillman Jr.
Well, did he leave or was that just a contract up and that's where he had to go?
I don't know. I'm not his mom.
Yeah.
I can't speak to that.
So I
You
don't.
know.
That's what I mean. I think Brian Pillman. I think Dragon Lee might be the only one that straight up, uh, chose that. And I know that
Yeah.
he took, and it was reported that he took a pay cut to go to NXT.
Yeah. But then he also was like, called up fairly early into
Yes.
his run. Like it was a pit stop.
Yeah.
NXT was a pit stop for him.
Yeah.
Um,
So we'll see.
But but yeah, we'll see. And I think it kind of butchered. Oh yeah, so the point was with all of that. But my point was, Ethan Page is 34 years old, and I didn't realize that he was that young. I thought he was older than he was because I was like just saying, oh yeah, he's gonna get pinned. Uh, so that's on me. I didn't realize that. But I just don't see, knowing how NXT has acted towards other people that they brought in that are established acts rather than prospects in the post Black and Gold era. I'm not sure about what his ceiling is at NXT, but I think that he's somebody that could make it work, I think.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
I hope the best for him.
let's be honest. In WWE, it feels like once you're in your mid 40s, that's when you start to get pushed on the main roster lately. So, he's
uh,
got some time.
But I think that we have a little bit of segue concerning Ethan Page due to the fact that an NXT had another surprise person show up this week. Jordynne Grace appeared on NXT. Of course, she had been appeared
I,
on WWE also this year for the
I
Royal
thought I
Rumble.
thought you were talking about Sexy Red.
Oh, excuse me. Sexy Red also appeared on NXT this week. I'm so sorry that I forgot about
I mean,
Sexy
listen,
Red.
there's a lot of people who are attributing that giant NXT rating this week to her. So I don't know.
I don't know who Sexy Red is. Is this somebody that's famous?
Yeah,
Am
she's
I
like
am I old?
I mean, I don't know. I'm old too. I don't know. I may be saying the name wrong for all I know, but I believe yeah, it's like a musical singer
Okay.
who does performances and makes songs, puts them on Spotify,
Okay. Okay.
I
She's
think
she's in the stream game.
yes. I believe that she actually is fairly well known, and I don't
Oh,
know if they announced her ahead of time or whatever, but she was she was on NXT and NXT did a big number, so I don't know. Maybe.
maybe. Well, I will point out though that Sexy Red, to the best of my knowledge, is not signed to TNA. Is that correct?
She's not.
Oh, well, then I think that makes that this one might be different, and maybe we should take a break before we dive deeper into what that could mean. Does that sound good to you, Doug?
Sounds good.
Okay, we'll be right back with the WrestleWatch podcast. Hey, everybody, welcome back to the WrestleWatch podcast. This is Ryan.
And I'm Doug, and we're going to come back with a short final segment to discuss one last thing that we didn't get a chance to go over yet, but I think it
Mhm.
requires, I think we need to at least talk about it for a little bit, and that's going to be the recent happenings in NXT with regards to a working relationship of some kind with TNA, or at
Yeah,
least with Jordynne Grace.
at least with Jordynne Grace.
Yes.
um, so this week on NXT, Ethan Page was not the only surprise person with, well, hey, he used to be in TNA also. Hey, how about that? He was not the only person that surprisingly showed up in the Performance Center or wherever they're filming NXT these days, the warehouse in Orlando. It was one Jordynne Grace, who, of course, as mentioned before, had appeared on the 2024 Royal Rumble with the Knockouts belt even then. And today, or this week, she appeared again in NXT. She's going to be challenging Roxanne Perez at the upcoming, I think it's called Battleground. I think that's the name of their next event. Yeah, it's NXT Battleground live from the UFC Apex in Las Vegas, Nevada, with the highest average ticket price I've ever seen for I guess we can call it an arena show.
It was very expensive, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think
I don't
I,
know. I can't. I have I've long said like I have a stance, a principled number that I will not like cross for a ticket to a wrestling show.
oh, okay.
And for me, it's $300. That's the most I will ever pay for a wrestling show ticket. And for $300, it needs to be like an incredible ticket. Like I've only paid 300 one time, and that was for the G1 in Dallas, and it was a front row seat to see Okada and Tanahashi for the first time
Okay.
against each other. So it's like that
Yeah.
was that was the so it needs to be something like that to
Okay.
make me pay that much. I am not paying that much. I just on principle alone. Like whether or
Mhm.
not I can or cannot afford it is irrelevant. That's just on principle. I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, so I think that the lowest level ticket for this show, which is like 1,000 people maximum capacity, is I think it's $150, and there are tickets that are far more expensive than that even. But the point is that Jordynne Grace will be on this show.
Yes.
Now, that caused a little bit of a fever of people of what does this mean? Is TNA now affiliated with WWE? All these other kinds of questions. Um, as far as it looks right now, it's just Jordynne Grace.
Yes.
Uh, the reports that have been coming out saying, oh, there might be a talent exchange. Oh, some of them might show up for the upcoming TNA special, all those kinds of things. Again, it's the same thing that we've been talking about for the last two segments. It is WWE sources saying this, not TNA sources.
Yes. And for the record, I'm also slightly annoyed because the day, like 2 days before this event, there's going to be a Black Label Pro show that they pulled Jordynne Grace from,
Yes.
which once again I paid. I have front row. I paid $60 for front row, and I guarantee you front row is not $60 2 days later to see Jordynne Grace.
Yeah, now it's $90 more at least. It might be 200, $500 more.
I
So
imagine the 150 are not the front row.
probably not. No, no. Yeah, maybe you should have just gone to Vegas then, you know?
Yeah. Listen, I'm. It's a great. The Black Label Pro show is looking really good, so I will take it. But
Who's replacing her for that show?
I think who did they say? It's gonna bug me now. Oh, Janai Kai.
Okay,
Yeah, but there's other people on that.
that's
Like
fun.
Mio Yamashita's on the show. She's
Yeah.
wrestling Kevin Koo, which should be interesting. Fred Lee Moriarty, Tom Lawler.
Oh yeah, this was the show that was supposed to originally have Stephanie McCour on it against Kylie Ray, and then they replaced Stephanie with Billy Starks, I believe.
Yes,
Yeah, which was interesting to see.
that's a lateral move, I'd say, but I would have preferred to see Stephanie McCour.
She's fun live. She's
Yes.
fun live. Um, but yeah, so what we're looking at with this TNA thing, my personal vibe, based off of the information that we have, is that uh, I'm not sure if this is anything more than just Jordynne Grace, because nobody else from TNA has ever appeared in WWE in the last year or two. So like, why would it be different? There's no evidence saying that it's more than just Jordynne Grace. Um, and then also the stuff that we're hearing about, oh yeah, maybe some NXT talent will be at the next TNA show. It's just like speculation from internal to WWE, not speculation or anybody from TNA saying it. So it's giving me a little bit of a flag of like, oh, maybe they're trying to make this sound like it's a bigger deal than it is. I think some people said that it is the prohibited portal that they're trying to engender because it was a day before the kickoff of Forbidden Door season where AEW instead did the crazy. I do not like clusterfuck matches. However, they did a very good one.
No, that was a great match. Just like random people coming out that
I,
yeah, no, you can't you have to love that. I mean, I'm
and
sorry.
I had fun watching it, but I think that it is not a successful kayfabe wrestling match. I think it's a fun thing to watch, though.
Yes.
Uh, Once you start to think about the rules of the match, it starts to become that mystery sign line. Just tell yourself that it's not a show. I really should relax because like it makes no sense once you think about the rules of the match. Um, but Anyway, I think that it's possible that TNA is not having an official partnership. That is a localized thing about Jordynne Grace in particular. It's possible that also this is part of her re-signing with TNA recently was allowing for something like this to happen. Um, but I mean, I could be surprised. We could find out more. But it's a thing also that TNA, I believe they still have some shows in the can from their last taping that they did recently. So it would have already come out that if NXT or WWE people were at that show, right? It would have already like people would already know.
I think so. I would think
So
so. Yeah.
yeah, so that's why again that's another point in my column of like I don't think that this is as big as some people are acting like it is. Uh, but what do you think, Doug, based off of everything that
I mean,
you're aware of?
I will say this. Who in TNA do you, besides Jordynne Grace, do you think people would get genuinely excited for?
Um, well, of course we have to like
Joe Hendry, maybe?
so the part of it is like you have to like put it on the curve of this isn't necessarily about who people in general would get excited about. It's about specifically the people in the warehouse in Orlando would get excited about. Because I'm not sure again if this is beyond just an NXT versus TNA kind of thing, you know?
Hmm.
Um, some people have said Joe Hendry. Um, he's memeable. Kids love him.
I mean, yeah, he would make sense, but once again, it's like that's why I think that's, and I'll say this as well. I think it's notable that at Forbidden Door, the main event is going to be between two AEW talents. And I think that's just because, New Japan right now is in a transitional phase where they're trying to rebuild their roster and build up their stars again.
Yeah.
And they don't really, and it's under, and I just think about TNA and I'm just like, they're kind of not much different.
Yeah, I mean, like they also have a few people like so I'm looking at the card right now for Against All Odds, which is their upcoming streaming special. It is going to be on the 14th, so 2 weeks from today or 2 weeks from now. It right now when I look at that card, there are a few people on there that are you don't know if you could call them actually signed fully to TNA. So the card right now has Jordynne Grace versus a mystery opponent, who some people believe is going to be a return deal for Roxanne Perez to show up there. Um, they have the system, which is Brian Myers and Eddie Edwards, who are signed to TNA, versus Nick Nemeth and Ryan Nemeth, which they might be signed to TNA formally, but it's been a little bit wish-washy on like what the actual deal structure is for Nick Nemeth. Um, Mustafa Ali is another one that's like that. It's questionable about how hard signed he is to TNA against Trent Seven, and then Moose versus Matt Hardy, who has been vehement. I am a free agent. Um, so, like, I don't know. That was like a third of that entire bill. There are people that are have questionable contract status with TNA, even. So it's
Yeah.
like you
And
have
all,
to
and all
you
those
have to
people
slice off
and
some of
all
these
those people
people.
and all those
You
people
know?
you named, like they'd be very weird ones to have like an NXT crossover. It's like,
Yeah, like Mustafa Ali. Oh yeah, you left WWE famously because you were asking for your release, and now you're gonna just come back because of the prohibited portal.
yeah, or Nick Nemeth, who they would like, he was just there a year ago,
They
and now
just
he's got to
released
come.
him.
Yeah, and now he's got to come back, and then would they keep him? He was like, he's going to be named Nick Nemeth, like instead. It's just it's very. I think this is like part of the issue that WWE has right now, where they kind of have their. I always call it like they live behind an iron curtain,
Mm-hmm.
and this is maybe them trying to like peek over the iron curtain a little bit, but you still see them running into these issues where because they have to control everything, it's like they have people's names, they change their names, and then they own their names, so then they're called something else, other places. So it's just having this partnership with these different promotions. It gets very prohibitive
Yeah,
when you have to change your corporate speak to just to change people's names. It just doesn't
Yeah.
work.
Well, like, and then I'm just looking back to their last special, Under Siege. Like, maybe you could talk about Masha Slamovich, you know? Maybe Speedball Mike Bailey could be a fun one. But Jonathan Gresham or Rick Schwann, you know? But like, I don't know if the NXT fan base would get excited about those kinds of people, you know? I don't. I it would be very
I mean,
shocked if they even know who Josh Alexander is,
I
to be
mean,
quite honest.
they got excited about Brian Pillman Jr. So
Yeah, but like he's Lexus King now. Let's stay on topic here.
yeah,
Let's keep it.
I shouldn't dead name him. I'm sorry.
Uh, but then what was I gonna say? I just feel like that there's not a lot of people that necessarily would get people super excited about. Oh, and then also there's another issue here is like Kushida or Ace Austin or Chris Bay. Well, Kushida is like dual signed to New Japan, we believe. And then Ace Austin and Chris Bay, their gimmick is a New Japan gimmick essentially that's on loan to TNA. So it's like, well, I don't think that you can get them.
I'll be honest. I don't think I mean this genuinely. I don't think that AEW would have an issue with, New Japan also doing something with WWE. I really don't.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think that will New Japan do it? I don't think so. But,
Mm-hmm.
Kushida showing up at NXT wouldn't be like world changing to me. People will act like it is, but I don't think it would be like a big deal.
Yeah. So yeah, that's like generally my take. I think is that first off, I don't think that this is anything more than just Jordynne Grace. But second off, even if it is, I'm not like it's notable. It's notable because it's WWE actually working with another promotion. That's notable. Uh, it would be if it's more than just Jordynne Grace. But I don't see exactly where excitement is coming here, you know?
Hmm. I agree.
Um, like I think that there could be more excitement from Marigold doing a crossover event if and when.
Eventually,
Eventually,
yeah.
it will happen. I think
Yeah.
like we had a discussion this week. Some of us on the committee of trying to kind of map out the alignment of promotions uh between AEW and WWE because some people have been like phrasing it as like it's a building of a Cold War of trying to get get these promotions into the first world or the second world or the promotions that are just trying to be
Yep.
neutral but
We got it.
fun boys.
We're getting
uh
our Warsaw pack together.
yeah, and really it's just Marigold right now that's like heavy obvious WWE partner, so it's like maybe there is a Cold War but WWE is not like I think again like as I've said in previous weeks that WWE's their modus operandi is not to recognize other promotions existing and also to dominate a relationship like that if it exists. Whereas AEW's modus operandi, or MO, is we are part of a larger wrestling landscape and we want it to all grow and we will like look at it as we are a partner even if at times a slightly more successful partner, we are partners with like New Japan or CMLL. So I think that that's a big difference, and that might be what is kind of being prohibitive of WWE getting these partnerships because I mean, like, let's be honest, if WWE wanted to have partner promotions, they could easily do it because they have all the money and all the platform in the world, you know? Like there's nothing stopping them from doing the kind of thing that AEW is doing with partner promotions, except for the fact that that's just like not how they operate.
Yeah. Yeah. I uh I agree.
Yeah.
I I don't know that I have anything else to add to that.
Well, do you have anything else to add for this episode of WrestleWatch?
I think we hit on everything we need to hit on.
Well,
It was a busy week.
that's great. So with that, I think that we will be back next week. It looks like we're going to be talking about Matt Hardy next week at the very least, which will be intriguing. Oh, Yeah, and just wanted to mention, of course, Double or Nothing. We hit on it. Yeah, MJF officially re-signed to AEW. Nothing more to say about that. Mercedes Moné had her first match finally from our previous picks on the tier list. Fantastic match in my opinion. But yeah, just wanted to quickly hit those notes of yay, we were right about Mercedes S tier. We were right about MJF removing him for the tier list. Like we got those right. Ethan Page, I don't think that we got that one right, but I don't think that we could have gotten that one right.
Yes. All right.
Cool.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Cool. Well, with that, thank everybody for watching or listening to the WrestleWatch podcast. You would listen to a podcast, so thank you for doing that. I'm Ryan. Hope you have a good rest of your week.
And I'm Doug. You as well.
All right. See ya.